So, what do you see as a key opportunity to challenge this revolution? And why, you focused a lot on this concept of digital by design versus digital by default, and how this digital by design might actually address all of these things, because we're trying not just to solve one problem, but we're trying to solve that systems of challenges.
Yeah, well, thank you. So one of the things I try and go through a bit in the book is the experience of the past industrial revolutions. So we've had three, arguably, and to simplify, what happens is that inequality increases. Ultimately, we get full benefits of those technological revolutions, whether it was steam or computers from the first and the third. We've ultimately get the full benefits, but for generations, inequality increases. Okay, the returns to capital go up, the returns to those with this complementary skills go up, but the returns to most people do not go up in relative terms. And that is what happened in 1, 2, and 3. And there's every reason to think that that's what will happen, or those are the forces that are underway and just beginning with this fourth industrial revolution. And there's many aspects to it, which we won't necessarily talk about. We'll focus on the digital and the reordering of the economy. What happens with the first three is that eventually society responds to the inequalities that increase. You change the way you educate people, you change the labor market institutions, you change the tax structure, you change the competition policy. There is a response that eventually comes in all those respects, and which helps to spread the benefits more broadly. That in time helps spread the benefits more time. So the argument of the book is, okay, well, if we're headed, do we want to be digital by default? Do we just want to let the forces of these great new technologies, and they are, amazing technologies that will create possibilities at least I can't fully imagine, and solve issues that are intractable at present. Do we just let them run their course for decades? Or do we start to change some of the aspects of the way the economy works today so that the benefits are spread much more broadly than we anticipate? And obviously the argument is that we do that today. So part of that goes to, I'm looking at the ivy symbol over your left shoulder. Part of it goes to education, and part of it goes to an educational structure. Look, we went in the first industrial revolution, we end up having universal primary education. Then we have universal secondary in the second. In the third, we get up to 70% of Canadians get some form of post-secondary education, very good post-secondary education. So not quite universal, but close. That mid-career training, institutionalizing mid-career training, and the opportunities for mid-career training for the next few decades is going to be incredibly important to build up and actually is incredibly empowering as well for individuals. I mean, who doesn't want to have new opportunities as you get into your middle years? But hopefully you'll also be in a position where you have a partner, a child, a mortgage, and so you need a support structure that bridges you through that. So it's not just about the places and what you're training people for, but a support structure that helps through that. We have an opportunity with this, and we've seen the tip of the iceberg, I think, through this crisis, of much more distributed working, which is a huge opportunity for regional leveling up or solidarity in Canada. You can be in London, Ontario. You can be in, you can be in Orleans, Steve, and be having a global impact. Fort Smith, et cetera. I mean, you don't have to be at the, the center of the universe that Andy is currently residing in at the moment, in order to. Anyways, point being, but you can do that, and you can do that on a global scale and an amplified scale for Canadians. You need the basic infrastructure, and you really do need it. You don't just need a tagline that says, let's have universal broadband. Let's properly have universal broadband and immediately. And by the way, there's great Canadian companies like Telesat and Leo that can deliver that, and that has multiplier effects. And why don't we just do that today? But ideally, what you also have is a payment system that's next generation, which is why something that Steve started work on before he left, the central bank digital currency at the Bank of Canada, the sort of knock-on effects there. You have a system where you recognize, you work towards a sort of freer trade in services including internal services for businesses, because you recognize standards in like-minded countries, and that creates huge opportunities for Canadians. So there's this huge series of things that we can do, including, again, and a lot of this, it doesn't all come down to the tax, but to make it, again, a tangible policy thing, which, what is the tax incentive to train people versus the tax incentive to install, some new machine learning technique. The latter, by the way, is tremendously advantaged relative to the former. Is that a logical way to think it? So the argument in the book, or the argument here, it doesn't matter whether it's in the book, is that a very conscious approach to this, recognizing that, okay, the last three have all led to these forces of increased inequality. You can see why it would in this case. We've seen some evidence during the crisis of exactly that happening. We're not going to stop it, but how do we channel it in a way, and how do we change our institutional structures in a way that's going to maximize it for Canadians?